Today's episode is brought to you by the Spec. Oh God, why? Why the Spec? It's gonna kill us all. It's gonna kill us all. Hello, everyone, and welcome to HighNoon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I am your host, The Blevins, and with me, as always, my best buddy, Deathblow. What's up, man?
Not too much, buddy. How are you?
I was doing all right up until
Be careful
about
over
5
there, man.
minutes
That
ago.
Spec is going to eat your whole face off
About
before the end of the
5 minutes
episode.
ago. So, for those of you who are listening on the podcast, you are spared of the awfulness that is the Spec. That is apparently now a part of the stream forever because it's permanently affixed to my webcam somehow. I don't know. But there's a tiny, itty-bitty little speck like right about here for the YouTube viewers and everyone watching live. Pointed out to us by my favorite mod, Vixia. Give her a follow. She streams too. But the spec is awful. And now people, Apex and chat, don't mind me just taking my spec for a walk.
I face-bombed when I read it. I IRL fail-fished.
God, I want to be dead right now. But the show must go on. So, a little bit of housekeeping. We, like I mentioned last week, the original giveaway winner turned out to be a non-real person or something to that nature. They didn't respond to me. I gave them a lot of time. My normal thing is I'll give you 48 hours to respond, which I think is reasonable. 2 days to respond in some capacity. Literally just say literally anything back, and I will be like, okay, cool, and we'll coordinate from there. It's been like a week because I forgot to re-roll the giveaway a bunch of times, and still nothing. So I don't feel bad at all. I did re-roll again, and the new winner, and I'm not going to reveal it and all of their information, is the email address is thelocalfreak@gmail.com. That's where I'll be emailing you. That looks like how you entered. If that's your email address, let's see. Is there? Oh, okay. At Sabriye on Twitter.
Well, since we butchered that, at least we're giving you something
Yeah,
for free.
at least you're gonna get an Overwatch Funko doll of your choice. Just let me know which one you want. Butchered that name. I will be sending you an email or a Twitter message. Actually, I'll be sending both. Just respond to me in any way, shape, or form. Tweet at me, tweet at the podcast, tweet at Deathblow. Literally anything to prove to me that you're not a robot. And we'll figure out how we're going to get that to you. Mostly me sending it to you in the mail. But yeah, so congratulations. Thank you guys all for that. For entering and whatnot. That was definitely a big boost at the beginning. For us, that giveaway was definitely nice. That and the Origins giveaway back in the olden days. Those were some. I think a lot of you guys are probably from that trying to scum some free swag. And by scum I mean I'm very, very thankful.
But yeah, no, in all seriousness, though, we're getting very close to 500 followers, which is a very, very high number for us.
Yeah.
Compared to our past shows. And I feel confident that, a good portion of those aren't bots. So that's always good.
Some of them definitely are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of just like, I'm like, oh, because I get all the notifications to my phone, and I'm like, oh, something followed. I'm like, oh, who is this? Because I want to, follow people who are also producing Overwatch content and whatnot, and it's just naked girls every time, and I'm like, I'm not that mad. I checked out a few shows, but that's not what we're here to talk about, sadly. One thing Deathblow mentioned to me last week after you were on the Omnic Lab podcast, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but you mentioned the idea of starting up a Patreon for the show, and previously I've been kind of like, I don't know how I feel about the whole crowdfunding thing, but I think we're getting to the point where, to be completely honest, I think, between the two of us just doing this in our free time, we're doing as much as we can right now with what we've got. And I'm very happy with where we are, but I think we can do better. And I think that especially if you guys, if you want to see us do better, we'd love to give you the opportunity to help us do better. So we're going to be thinking about that. We're going to be talking. Jim and I are going to be talking, and we'll also probably get Phelan in here too, talking about what we want to do for that. So keep that in mind. If you have any ideas or things that you'd like to see us, do for that in that vein, shoot us a tweet, shoot us an email, what have you. Always open to suggestions, comments, and whatnot. And also, if you have any experience with that, looking at you guys, Omnic Lab, and you have any words of wisdom to bestow upon new Patreoners, I guess, always open for that too.
Yeah, I've never used it before personally. I know a
Yeah.
lot of the Game of Thrones YouTube pages I like and things like that have started to use it, and it seems like a really fun and interesting way for listeners to get involved and viewers to get involved, and we're always up for that. So feel free to keep an eye out for that, and if it's something that interests you, by all means, no pressure, but feel free to participate at whatever level you would like there.
Yeah, and just for reference, we will not be changing. We're not going to we need to get to this funding or we're shutting down the show. That's not going to be the case. We're just we're looking for ways to improve on all fronts, and I think that's a good way to do some of the other stuff that we've thought about doing, but we just haven't had the means to do yet. So we will move on onto. I alluded to it before, but what did we do last week, Deathblow? I know you had an eventful last Thursday.
I did, yes. I had an all-around pretty busy week, considering I had two really, really great job interviews in the past week. I know I've mentioned my unemployment a couple times or every week in the past, and but yeah, I had just two phenomenal interviews. I'm really hoping one of them comes through, and I should be gainfully employed once again very shortly here, it looks like. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed and trying to be hopeful, so hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me. But really excited about that. Also, we had a lot of team practices this week for the Overwatch team, obviously, and we're making a lot of progress there. Learning some new compositions, things like that. Really trying to adapt to this one hero limit business that I'm oh so fond of. Sarcasm, obviously, abound there. But it's definitely been interesting, and we've had some good scrims, some bad scrims, and it's definitely one of those cases where it's frustrating to have the bad days, but those are the days you learn the most. So
Right.
they're the ones you seek out and the ones you want to have. But yeah, as a team, it was interesting to kind of get beaten around a little bit. I think it was Friday we had a bad day. So
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think has proven to me that Overwatch is going to stand the test of time, is that I've had bad days. Obviously not in the same capacity because I'm not playing at that competitive level, but I've had bad days where I just lose and lose and lose, and it almost to an extent is worse in quick match when you're just playing with bad players and they don't help you, and that makes me play worse, and it just piles on. And in Hearthstone or Heroes of the Storm, if you have one or two bad games, you just say, you know what, I'm done. I'm not playing again tonight. Overwatch, I'm still playing for 4 or 5 hours, even if I'm having one of my worst days. I'm still playing because I'm still having fun. Even though I'm getting crushed and playing terribly and I'm not getting any better that day, I'm still having just as much fun as, well, maybe not as much fun, but I'm still having a similar amount of fun as when I'm, crushing with any given character. So that's one of the reasons, and that's one of the main selling points I have for people who are like, I don't know if I want to play this game or not. I'm like, I've lost 10 games in a row and played terribly every single game, and I still had fun. So keep that in mind.
yeah, that's not a guarantee, I'll say, from the other side of things. I no longer have fun in quick play with one or two friends. It's really not that entertaining for me, and I'm a little upset about that. But I think in the end, it'll fix itself. At the beginning with the team, we did a lot of quick play,
Hmm.
and we never lost, almost never, I should say. And I think my MMR might have bumped itself up a little bit too much, and combine that with the fact that I had all the, the what was it, 280 or 270 levels worth
Hmm.
of hidden MMR that carried over from the closed beta. I'm curious if maybe as the game gets a little older, I stop just getting pared down to these. Like I had like a level 9 on my team earlier today. I'm not an elitist. I'm only like level 70 or something like that. But 9 is really low. Like you
Yeah,
just started, and
this is your first day playing, probably.
right, and the guy wasn't even terrible. It's just like just everything about it was really bad. His pick was kind of off, and
Oh, you know what?
um,
I think I figured out why you had a level 9 on your team. When a console player gets to level 100, they get bumped up to level 1 in PC because it's like the same. So you were just
little cross-platform action.
you had to get to level 100 to be able to play at the worst of PC. It makes sense. Or maybe it's
Yeah,
200.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know if there's anybody at 200 yet, so it would have to be 100 if that was true. But
Yeah.
and it's very frustrating from the perspective of when you play with teams. I don't mind losing. Like we have those
Hmm.
losses. I'm not the salty one in the scrims when we're getting it handed to us. I'm the one, kind of like treating it like a puzzle. Like how do we crack this?
Yeah.
I
The
get kind
Magic
of into
player,
it a
of
little
course.
bit. Right. And so it's not the losing, it's the like forfeiting with two snipers on Koth. It's just stop. Like, or when your Torbjorn player yells at you because you're Reaper and you're on King of the Hill and you don't even have control of the point, so there's literally zero reason to have a turret, and he's telling me I'm worthless, and I'm just
Uh,
like, okay, like I can't. What do you even say to this guy? I have nothing, and
you
it's
say,
when it's supposed to be a team game. I want to be able to talk to my teammates, and I hate that people get so frustrated when you suggest that they might be more
that,
productive if they switched. It's not a
yeah.
criticism, it's just a strategy
Yeah, you say,
don't
Torbjorn's
freak
not
out.
necessarily good on this map. Or
Right.
if you really want them to listen, you say, to turn the tooltips off, press Alt F4. If you'd like to keep hearing this message, just listen. A Torbjorn is not quite good on a King of the Hill map.
And there's with the snipers, there's different things. There's spots for it. I get it.
Yeah.
A good widow can get use out of it, but a good Torbjorn just knows not to play it on King of the Hill. I feel
Yeah,
like so
yeah,
that's
it's just bad.
yeah.
There's some things that are bad, and the problem is, and this is, well, I think we're going to address this problem later, or we're going to address the mode later. There's no competitive mode right now, so we're kind of in the nexus of, or the nebulous of, what does a competitive player do when they're not scrimming?
Right.
And right now, it looks like you just watch streams and do other stuff,
Right.
and not play quick match because it's the same thing in Hearthstone. Like, when was the last time you played a non-ranked game in Hearthstone that wasn't a tavern brawl just to get your pack? Never, probably.
Yeah.
Like, it's stupid too. Heroes is a little bit different, I think, but I would imagine that a high-level Heroes players never play quick match. They only play ranked or Hero League or whatever. That's what I would imagine. I'm just not at that level for Heroes, but if I were, I probably would only play Hero League. And there was a time when I was only playing Hero League, but I was just never good enough to keep playing. I just fell right back down. But yeah, so I'm hoping that the creation of competitive mode will kind of ease your suffering and make your non pubs or non pickup games playable.
That would be nice if it did. I mean, it has to
Yeah.
to a degree.
Yeah.
Maybe not at the beginning, but it gives you something to grind out of. It gives you a reason to
Right.
keep going and putting
Even
up
if
with it at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because you will get out of it. And I can always just rank up with my team for the first two ranks so that I can guarantee I don't have
Yeah, true.
those terrible, terrible players on my team by just queuing as 6. But
True.
we'll have to wait and see. That does kind of also highlight the fact that Blizzard has stated they're likely going to give us like 2 weeks off at the end of a season before the start of the next season. So there will kind of always be this problem a little bit. But in the meantime, uh, our listeners and our viewers will get to benefit because I didn't play much Overwatch this weekend since we didn't practice. I watched every minute of Overwatch.
Yeah.
Because I'm still super into the game and it's still what I want to be doing. I'm just like logged in, looking at the menu and in my social list, going, "Can I get 6 people I'm really confident in right now together, or can't I?" And just kind of waiting for that moment when I can. So,
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I watched a lot, and it was a pretty good weekend this weekend. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, and just to real briefly go over what I did last week, not a whole heck of a lot of Overwatch, sadly. Just didn't get the chance to play. I did play a little bit yesterday, but it was not that much. I'm going to try. I'm at level 21, I think, right now. Like, really low, considering I co-host a podcast on the game. I'm lower than, like, almost everyone I know. I want to try to get to 50 by the end of the week.
You're half my level, and most of my playing is scrims.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to get to 50, but I'm going to try. So stay tuned as we do that. But we'll move on to our somewhat new segment of what did you do last week? You being the listeners and fans and everyone who supports us. Again, from the bottom of our hearts, we really appreciate that. For those of you who may be new this week, I'm not going to go too much into it because it's so stupid. But we started some new dank memeage, mostly just to upset me.
Yes.
If you want to listen back to episode 23, I think it was.
It all started 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, so episode 23. Listen to that. You're going to hear me go on my now infamous cupcake rant. And I won't go too much into it, but the TLDR is I hate you and your stupid talentless cupcake pictures on Reddit. That's basically what it is. So instead of embracing me and telling people off and writing posts about how stupid the cupcakes are on Reddit, everyone decided to just send me a bunch of cupcake pictures. Stupid Overwatch cupcake and cake and cookie pictures.
Thank you for that, by the way. Much appreciated.
Yeah. And I think there was a custom drawing of some weird dog with cupcake feet. It was very weird and off-putting. There are not one, but 2 actual cupcake companies following either me or the show now just because of the stupid cupcake rant. I'm
going to place an order soon. Don't worry, guys.
Yeah,
it was worth
there's yeah, so basically you guys have been tirelessly working to make me salty, ironically by sending me sweets. So, yes. Hats off to you guys. You got there. You got me riled up over some stupid baked goods. So congratulations. Make sure to tweet those to @the_Blevins on Twitter and at HighNoon Podcast on Twitter.
Now, to be clear, you weren't alone in this. Our good friend at OverTheBill1 wanted to make sure that I didn't feel left out. So I got my own fan tribute video on his YouTube page, chock full of anime and Tom Brady, just to make sure that I would go on my own little rage spree this week as well. So much appreciated. The tongue-in-cheek nature of it was appreciated.
Yeah.
So we always appreciate no publicity is bad publicity.
Yeah.
Basically. So.
That's why I've been sending a bunch of hateful mail to everyone this week. And if you send me cupcakes, I will, at the very least, send you an eye roll GIF back. That's the least I will do. I've gone further, but the eye roll GIF is at the very least what you do. So if you guys have any sort of anything at all that you want us to talk about or see or interact with, send it to us. Tweet it at HighNoon Podcast on Twitter, at @the_Blevins on Twitter, at get your calculators out for whatever Death Blows Twitter on Twitter is.
D3ATH should be L0W.
There you go.
No calculator needed. But before I forget, I did want to, in the what did you do this week? If you enjoyed Andres being on the show last week, Him and Rob were kind enough to invite me onto the Omnic Lab this
Yes.
past Thursday, so I made a guest appearance there. We kind of did. If you're new to our show and really liked it, I think you'll find it's a really good kind of introductory episode to listen to. You'll get my
Hmm.
take on some of the meta things and kind of a catch up. You know, they don't talk about the competitive scene every week.
Hmm.
That was really one of their first times doing it. So it was a top down look at everything that's happened so far, and really valuable if you're just coming into the scene. And, you know, if you're like I would have normally been, you know, without the podcast before I got into the beta, I would have been way too salty to follow the comp scene. So I'm assuming there's a lot of people that just got into the game that are just now starting to pay attention to these things that might want a little bit of a catch up.
And actually, to that vein, a couple of people over the past few weeks, I don't. We may have talked. I think we tweeted back at them. They asked, "How do I, get better? How do I get into the comp scene? What resources do I have at my disposal to learn more about the game and to find pub games and competitive teams?" And there's a couple of things that you can do. The one thing I would say to do for sure is join the the OW Discord group.
Yes, there's an OW Discord. It is fairly exclusive.
Oh,
I
maybe that's not
don't
the one I'm thinking of. Oh, there's another one. It's called. I just saw it today, actually.
competitive Overwatch.
Yeah, Cow League.
Cow, yes.
Cow
Um,
League is a Discord community dedicated exclusively to people who are not pro players but who want to play at a competitive level. They have non-pro, or I guess amateur. I don't know why I said it like that. They have amateur tournaments that they run every weekend. And I haven't delved too deeply into it because I just saw it today. But as far as I can tell, that's a good place to find some people to play with and learn a little bit more from the people in the community. Another great resource is Gosu Gamer's Overwatch page. They have the results from virtually every single tournament that ever happens. They have a neat little Chrome extension that tells you when the next matches are coming up. And they've got a lot of Overwatch content written every week, too. So that's another good place to go. And then lastly, at least off the top of my head, creationesports.com, where you can find at least one competitive Overwatch podcast on there. They also have some written content on Overwatch as well. So those are probably the three main ones I would say to if you're looking to, and also Reddit, but that's riddled with stupid
well,
cupcake pictures.
/r/Overwatch LFT is a great place to find a team. I
Mm.
also use it to find scrim opponents when we need them. So if you don't have your six lined up yet, start playing with some guys on there. They do allow posting for all of the platforms, the consoles included. Just tag your post appropriately, and you will be able to do some work towards finding some people that are similarly minded and interested as you are in getting into the competitive scene.
Cool. Yeah, and that's a thing that a couple of people had asked us. So glad we could talk about it. And again, if you guys have any questions or anything like that, feel free to tweet at us, and we will bring it up on the show. But we have spent a lot of time at the beginning parts of the show. Let's move on to the real meat and potatoes. Let's talk about the tournaments that happened this week. So started off like we do every week with the King of the Watch tournament. It's a nice little kickoff to the weekend. We saw the returning champions who last week dethroned Reunited, Envious, this week. Played against the relatively unknown, as far as I know, Vape Nation. Not really heard too much about them.
Yeah, I haven't either, and I've got to be completely honest here. I was completely unable to see this. Now, there is a VOD up. I believe it's on Jorisar's YouTube channel.
Yeah, he's got the VODs.
It's a very high quality VOD, unlike the VOD that was available on stream.me after
Mm.
the event. If you were even able to watch the event, I could not get the web page to load under any circumstances. I tried throughout the entire event, just constantly like refreshing, hoping it would work, different browsers, things like that. Just kept crashing my Java applet. So unfortunately, I didn't get to see this one, but I had not heard of Vape Nation before this. And one thing, too, we mentioned before, there was some confusion about Envious. Are they an NA team, an EU team? 5 of their 6 members are EU natives. They do, however, now all live in a Team Envious house in North Carolina, and I believe Tailspin is a native NA player as well. So they do count as an NA team now, since that's the servers they play on, with the lowest ping.
Cool.
So figured that out.
Yeah, so Envy NA team. So that means NA is dominating right now.
Yeah, they own the EU tournament King of the Watch.
It's pretty sweet.
They are the kings for the first time.
Yeah, Envious pretty much. We didn't hear about Vape Nation before. I don't know how much we're going to hear about them after they got dumpstered 4-0. So Envious is actually 8-0 in the last 2 weeks in the King of the Watch. Am I right?
I believe so, yeah.
Against one of the top teams in EU and then Vape Nation.
Then these guys. They beat Reunited 4-0 last week. That's right, I remember, because I brought that up in Twitch chat, and I was told that I was wrong and that it never happened. So that's why I remember that.
Yeah, I remember it because I saw it, and I'm like, oh, man, the Gosu tournament page is wrong. This is the first time I've seen it be wrong. They couldn't have lost 4-0. And, A, Reunited couldn't have lost. B, it couldn't have been 4-0. And both of those were true, so we saw it happen. And King of the Watch is now, that is Hero Limit now, right? They changed it, I think, 2 weeks ago, or is it not Hero Limit?
I honestly, like I said, I haven't seen it yet, so I couldn't tell you about this week's, and I don't remember if it was Hero Limit last week. I think it was actually the only tournament last weekend that wasn't Hero Limit.
No, it wasn't Hero. I'm thinking of something different. It was, I think, before the beta, it wasn't Hero Limit. It was competitive rules, which, for those of you who are new to the game, might not actually know what the competitive rules are because competitive mode hasn't existed since launch. But they were running competitive rules before. I don't know. I'm trying to look now if it was.
They're not anymore, I can tell you that. Considering
no, well, they don't even exist anymore.
Right, there is no competitive rule anymore. Like, we know it's changing, and we don't know what it's going to be yet. So,
right.
They were almost certainly running stopwatch.
Yeah. Doesn't look like it. It says it right off the top, so I'm not going to dwell too much on it. But King of the Watch, again, we will see Envious defend their title next week. Not sure against who yet, but hopefully we can get someone. I mean, I guess if Envious is technically an NA team, we could see maybe they can bring in Cloud9 and have them sit on the hill for a while. Or sit on the watch, I guess you could.
Yeah, only for a little while. I mean, somebody would just have to beat him, right?
Right, but who beats Cloud9? Who watches the Watchmen?
So far, nobody.
Exactly. They're like old IDDQD.
I will say, and we'll talk about it soon, an EU team came pretty close, scared me a little bit a couple times. And we'll talk about it more, but it was a very entertaining match.
Well, we move on to the EU Gosu Weekly number 12. We saw Envious, Creation, Reunited, and Rogue. And in that tournament, we saw Reunited take out Envious 3-1 on this one. So Reunited kind of reuniting, coming back from a pretty lackluster last week. Although, I mean, okay, it wasn't really lackluster. It was lackluster in comparison to what we're used to seeing from Reunited. They still put up some pretty good results last week. They just didn't win every event like we normally see them do.
Right. Or at least, I mean, they're kind of like the consummate second place team. They seem to always be number 2 and falling to Cloud9
like top-tier teams, yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's never a slouch. They're getting
they're the PTQN boss, if you will.
I do think this is their first place finish, though. I don't know that they've gotten one before.
For Reunited, really?
Yeah, at least at an event. Obviously, like, they've won on King of the Watch and things like that. So,
you might be right.
I don't know that they've ever first placed before. So it was good for them to do it, and they did it on their home servers, being on the EU side this week. And they did, obviously, as we'll mention soon, also top 4 on the NA side, as we're very used to. But holding serve on their home servers, and they're a team that doesn't enjoy the cross server play. They just do it because otherwise they're not going to play in an event. So why wouldn't you?
You get the reps in.
Yeah, and they always tend to do well anyway. So I think it's more important to them that they hold on at home and just do well when they're on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so glad to see they were able to do it,
Right.
and
I mean,
very
they
glad to
cash
see
almost every event
creation.
too.
Yeah, and very glad to see creation in the top four here as well.
Yeah, creation putting up some good, still putting up some good results. I did see. I was watching Link's stream on Sunday. I think he's twitch.tv/LINKZR. Linkser,
Yep,
I think.
thanks.
Check him out. Probably the best Widowmaker in the world. Definitely a top five, I think. I don't think you can argue that he's not a top five Widowmaker.
I think it'd be tough to argue outside of the top three, to be perfectly
Right.
honest. Reaver's the only one that, in my mind, is close,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously, there's plenty of other strong ones throughout the field as
Yeah.
well.
So I was watching him play, and he's on Temple of Anubis, and he's just dumpstering. He goes off, and then the other team picks a Widow, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be embarrassing. And the other Widow is picking off Lynx, and I'm like, what is going on? This Widow is like out of this world. Like, it's like back and forth. Don't get me wrong. Like, Lynx is still doing well, but like every once in a while, this Widow's just getting these insane picks. And I told Lynx, I'm like, Lynx, check who this guy, this other Widow is. And I look, and it's literally Tavik.
I was going to
Just
say,
like randomly in a quick match.
yeah, these guys usually, I mean, they have the MMR that I talk about. Like I talk
Right.
like I have. They actually have it in spades. I see them constantly when they're streaming. Just
Yeah.
it's like, oh, no big deal. Like Volutaja and Too Easy on the other team.
Yeah.
Just classic. Yeah, and they even when they hit quick play and they're streaming, they still get into these matches against these other pros really regularly, and it's a lot of fun to watch. If you're not watching top overplayers stream, you're missing out.
Yeah, and speaking of, I don't want to talk too much about this. It doesn't really have anything to do with competitive, but we did mention a little bit last week. It's just kind of crazy to see how the Overwatch as a Twitch enterprise and a Twitch power has grown since it was nothing into the like constantly top five. Actually, I think constantly top three. I don't think I've
Usually.
seen it below top three since launch. Although I haven't been watching too closely, but you see it dip into 1 and 2 every once in a while. I mean, League of Legends consistently. I think if you looked at it throughout the whole day, League of Legends still has a stranglehold on the overall viewership, but it's kind of crazy. Last week saw Seagull with 25,000 viewers, which is like just absolutely insane to think that you hear people talk about how they saw Tim the Tap Man back when he had 5 viewers. They saw so and so when they had 5 viewers. It's just kind of crazy to see. Well, we saw this game when it had 5 viewers, and now it's like one of the most popular games. It still rings in my head. All these people have said, "Oh, no one's gonna watch Overwatch. No one's gonna care about Overwatch. Oh, Battleborn is gonna cannibalize." Like, Battle what?
Yeah, and I saw actually, I think it was
Morons.
like something on Facebook that you liked that then showed up on my feed. It was like the game hours spent in Korea.
Yeah.
On games, and obviously League of Legends was number one, but Overwatch, the bars were, you know what I mean? They were related. They were going
League of
in
Legends
opposite
is dropping.
directions.
Yeah,
It
League of
looked
Legends
like
is
League
dropping.
was losing players to Overwatch, and Overwatch hasn't overtaken it by any means.
It's like-
but any, dent in that armor can't be a good thing for League, as it a lot of people have speculated
it's
is
called
nearing the
the-
end of its life cycle.
Korean bang something. I don't actually know what the graph is showing. It has something to do with hours played or like volume played, something like that. But it was all foreign, literally foreign to me. So, but I think whatever the units they're measuring in Overwatch is only down by like 6. I don't know if that's hours or what, but like 6 away from League of Legends. While League of Legends is trending downwards, obviously Overwatch is trending upwards. I mean, it's a little bit unfair, I would think, because Overwatch literally just came out.
Yes.
Like you would, I guess, considering that it's also a console game, you'd probably imagine that some of the like people who buy the new Call of Duty games every year and only play for so long are like the new Battlefield games, and that it's like huge for like a couple of weeks and then it dies completely. I think you're probably going to lose some of those people, but I think we're going to keep a lot of people too. We're going to keep growing as well.
Yeah, I don't think League is by any means going to be toppled by Overwatch. The number might get higher, but they're different genres. They're different,
Right.
they're so different that one doesn't necessarily signal anything to the other game.
Right.
But the game I think needs to be most worried is Heroes because you're in the same launcher. It feels like they might really cannibalize one of their own games straight out of the market, and
Yeah.
I don't know that I don't have numbers to back it up, but um, I don't see people on my friends list playing that game anymore, and I used to every now and then. And part of that might be because I filled my friends list like 4 or 5 times recently, and if you're a fan of the show and you are on my Blizzard friends list and you're not anymore, I apologize. There's so many people I tried out, so many scrim opponents, things like that. I need to
Hmm.
keep on my friends list. I've lost a lot of people. Um, and the only thing I'm really trying to hold on to is like my old school WoW Guild friends that I'm probably never going to play that game again. So, but I spent so long and know those guys so well.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose track of them, and I don't have them, any other way to get a hold of them. So,
Right.
other than that, I'm losing people left and right. So my apologies if that's you. But even like Hearthstone seems low. Like it's not
Hmm.
so much that during the day there's a problem, but like at night it's you know only Overwatch. That's the only game that seems to be active
Yeah.
in the non-peak hours.
Yeah. And I definitely have seen dips in Heroes of the Storm. Most notably, and I won't get into this, A, because I don't know too much about the whole scene, and B, because we're not going to talk about Heroes of the Storm for too long. Cloud9, the former World Championship team of Heroes of the Storm, disbanded,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is a
Orgs are
pretty
backing
big
out of
deal.
the game.
It's a
Yeah,
pretty big deal, I think. And it's kind of sad because I thought Heroes of the Storm had a lot of potential, but at the same time, it makes a lot of sense, sadly. But we'll move back. We always do this. This always happens in the
every time,
tournament talk.
every
Always in
time.
the tournament talk, we get like through 2 tournaments and then we get sidetracked. But we'll move back into the NA Gosu Weekly number 12. We saw Envious again. Luminosity, Luminosity, Gale Force, and Reunited. And we saw Envious take this one out 3-0 versus Luminosity in the final. So we saw Envy take 2 tournaments this week, which is nice for them. Luminosity, I think they're the perpetual second place team. I don't know if they've actually won a weekly or a major event yet, but they're like in every single top four that they play.
They do top four a lot, but the one thing I'll say is I think they might be perpetually third place.
Yeah.
Like I don't know that I see them in the finals too often. And
No, not a lot.
Cloud9 did not participate in this event. They had an event later the same day, um,
Mm,
and they had to. I think they're going to E3 for some. I don't know if there's an Overwatch anything scheduled for E3, but
mm,
I do believe the Cloud9 team is headed there. So they were like packing and getting ready to leave,
yeah.
so that way they'd be able to play in the ONOG group stage since that's a longer range tournament.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that right now. Real quick, we'll just run through the results. We saw just the Group A standings as of the recording, where we saw Cloud9, Luminosity, Rogue, Northern Gaming Blue, and a team called B-Fly. Not really familiar with them, but we saw...
They won their way in from a qualifier tournament, so
That's kind of
they
cool.
they definitely earned the right to be
They
there.
won the PTQ. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So we saw Cloud9, to note the surprise of no one, go 4-0. Luminosity went 3-1. Not a bad performance. Rogue only went 2-2, which is, I guess, it's kind of been the... That's kind of been how they've been performing ever since they, switched to Rogue. Like from Maidong, from IDDQD days, the roster changes, the team changes, the everything changes. Have kind of, I wouldn't say left them in shambles, but they have not been putting up the performances that they once have.
Who is this again? I'm sorry.
Rogue,
Rogue. Yeah, they're what's place are they in there in the group?
they're right in the middle. They went 2-2 for Group A.
So is that good for second place? I thought they were in
No,
second place.
they're in
No.
third place. LG is in second place.
Okay, that's
Rogue in third with 2-2. Northern Gaming Blue went 1-3, and the qualifier B Fly did not pick up a win in this set.
they didn't, but scared C9 a little bit.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy.
They took, I want to say, control. Like it seemed like C9 thought, we've got this. I don't know
Hmm.
who this B fly is, but we've got this. And they went with a strategy I haven't seen them take before, and they decided to keep the Koth maps around, perhaps
Mm.
thinking, let's move this along, let's make this go a little bit faster than a full Gibraltar run or anything like that.
Hmm.
And they lost the point initially off the go, and I want to say B Fly got to like 70% before they took it back, and B Fly did not hold it again the rest of
Mm.
the round. But that's, as somebody that's played against C9 on Koth before, it's not easy to do. I don't know that we got 70% on a point at any time, though we did win a team fight, which we were very happy with. So we controlled the point for at least 5 seconds, and it's very difficult to do. So congratulations to them, and definitely, I don't believe there were any names on the roster that I remembered from the past,
Mm.
but definitely a team to look out for. Anytime somebody wins the right to enter tournaments like
Yeah.
this, I'm sure they came in knowing what would happen, but nonetheless, just a phenomenal experience for them. And so if they were able to win their way into this, then you just have to count on the fact that there's somebody you need to pay attention to going forward.
Yeah. I mean, the PTQ winners are always the grinders, the real dedicated group. And sometimes you see them, convert into full-on pro level. So
Yeah.
that'd be kind of nice to see, the Cinderella story, so to speak. But Group B, we didn't see played yet. Might actually be playing right now. I'm not sure.
No, the match ticker says 5 days from now.
Oh, okay. So it's not for a while. So that's good.
It's the weekend. Yep.
So Group B is going to be consisting of Reunited, Gale Force Esports, Envious, Nautilus, I think is N, right?
Yep.
And Northern Gaming Red. So both Northern Gaming's represented here. I forget the pro player who's on Northern Gaming Blue, like the big name one. Is it?
Is that hard blue? I get them
I think it's hard blue.
confused.
I think it's hard blue. Maybe, I don't know, but we're going to be seeing some good play. The One Nation of Gamers event last time was quite good. This one is looks like it has the ability to be another good one. The only real team, I guess there's two teams right off the bat that I don't see that I would have expected to see. One of them, although they've been kind of on the downfall lately, Team Liquid, not in this event.
Don't know that I've seen them now that you mention it.
I haven't seen them in a while, but I guess they've kind of been where I make fun of.
Agent Rising, I think, is the last time I've seen them.
Yeah, where I make fun of LG for being, we say they're perpetually third place. I think Team Liquid is like perpetually like fifth, sixth place, like just barely out of the cash. With like every once in a while, I think they maybe have cashed one or two weeklies, perhaps. But for a big name org like Team Liquid, they're not really putting up the results that a team of that caliber would normally put up in most sports.
No, they're not. They still sit at number 8 here in the Gosu Gamers rankings.
Mm-hmm.
I look at the teams below them, and I'm curious if maybe they're not going to be dropping sooner rather than later with Nubris,
Yeah.
Graviton Surge, OW Kings.
Yeah, OW
Northern
Kings has been
Gaming
making
Red.
some pushes lately.
Yeah, these teams are on the rise. They're getting better, and it's only a matter of time. If Team Liquid, I don't know what their practice schedule looks like. If they're practicing and just not doing tournaments because when they enter they want to have a real chance to win them, I respect that. But without seeing them and without seeing them get better, it's hard to do anything but speculate that they're not getting better. And
Right.
so until we see them come in and do something, I have to wonder what's going on with them and whether or not they're gonna, we're gonna see a new Team Liquid sometime
Right,
soon,
and
or what have you.
this is the kind of, it's the Wild West of the sport at this point. So I would not be surprised to see huge changes, including a full roster swap potentially for Team Liquid. Also, Team Liquid, if you want a support player, I'm right here. JK, I'm terrible. But yeah, and we've still not seen a lot of the other, big teams, esports organizations like Navi, like Virtus Pro, like any of these other, Team Solo Mid. Although I think Team Solo Mid had tryouts or something. I remember seeing a posting for an Overwatch team
The one
for Team Solo Mid. I
I
think.
know there's a lot of teams and there's a lot of orgs that have and they were talking about this on the one of the tournament streams. There's been a lot of false claims made by teams that are seeking sponsorship.
Uh huh.
Like somebody will send not TSM is just an example, but so let's say somebody sends TSM an email like, yeah, we're the number 2 team in NA, and then TSM obviously, could probably reach out to ZP or somebody over at
Yeah.
Gosu and just be like, hey, so
Or
these
just go to the
guys
Gosu
are
page.
saying they're pretty good, and they're just like responding like, really? Because we've never heard of them. They've never played in anything. It's kind of hard to be
Yeah, they said
number
their name's
two.
Grouchy Desperado.
No, that's a team people have heard of.
Yeah,
You
it's
can
true.
you can say nice things about Grouchy
We've talked
Desperados,
about Grouchy Desperados more than a lot of teams.
right? And I mean, and we're picking on them because I have happened to be lucky enough to win like 2 out of 3 times I've played against 4 of their team in
Yeah.
competitive at the beta, and so we pick on them a little bit. But
Oh, that's the team that
they're
is
still super.
the NG team, isn't it? Northern Gaming. I think a lot of them converted into one of the Northern Gaming teams,
I think they're Northern Gaming Red.
who we're now like obligated to root for because I'm pretty sure they're based out of Toronto.
Northern Gaming Red is listed as a United States team, and yeah, that has Bread Expert, Naptime, Mangachu, Dump Truck. So that is your Grouchy
The
Desperados.
Grouchies. I'll root for them. I think that they are. I think maybe the Northern Gaming organization is based out of Toronto. I was looking them up.
Well, they have also Mangachu as a Canadian player, and VP Chance listed on their roster is Canadian as well.
Cool. But yeah, that's we've got some good. Oh, and the other team. One last thing. The other team. We mentioned Team Liquid not being here, and maybe some changes with them. Don't know. The other team that's not in this event that I'm really surprised is Creation. Where is Creation in the One Nation of Gamers tournament? They've been putting up results the last few months.
They have. The one thing I will say about this event is it takes place entirely on the NA servers from everything I've seen so far.
Oh,
So it's very possible that Creation opted not to play in
yeah,
it.
that's kind of been
They
their
had
MO.
they had like a weekend before where they played in a much smaller event than one that was playing on the NA side, other than the Gosu Gamers Weekly or something that had a bigger prize pool. But I don't fault anybody for that.
For sure.
It's tough watching a team that when you're like, I really want to know now. I don't know who's better, Reunited or Envy, right? Because we've seen such varied results from that matchup, from a 4-0 win from Envy going over to the EU servers to playing King of the Watch, and then you have Reunited beat Envy under the exact same circumstances the next week. So that's really interesting, and I would love to see. I really can't wait for the big LAN tournament. We were talking about it a bit before the show, but when Blizzard announces their series or their world championships or whatever they're going to do, we're going to see all these big teams show up in Anaheim for BlizzCon to play this out. And I can't wait to see it personally.
I can't wait to see it live.
Oh, you're dead to me. 'Cause I'm super jealous. And, but I'm going to have the virtual ticket, so that's close, right? But yeah, I want to see these guys get in a LAN environment where ping isn't an issue and duke it out and settle it out. It's going to be phenomenal to watch, and it's also hopefully Blizzard. Please listen to me. Save us from eggplant mode. I'm so sick of Hero Limit. And if another caster tries to tell me that removing 2 capture point maps increases the strategy behind map banning, I'm going to lose my mind because it doesn't make any sense to me, and I want to know why it makes sense. So please, somebody tell me. Tweet at me. Let me know.
Yeah,
I can't figure it out.
And that moves us on to our next segment really nicely. I forgot the clip again. It is our favorite segment, everyone's favorite segment. Oh, let's break it down. One of these days I'm gonna remember.
Fix the soundboard. I made it just for you.
Wait, did you fix the soundboard?
No, I couldn't get that one sound to play.
The literal only one we use.
I mean, we got the
Uh,
outro and the intro on there,
yeah,
so
that's
two out
true.
of three is not bad.
That's true. But
We need a Blevins drop
yeah,
too.
we do need a McLevin's drop. But yeah, so the eggplant mode. Give us a little more, because I've seen the eggplant around the OW. I think that's kind of where it came from, or one of the Discord servers. I don't know. And the eggplant and the everyone complaining about stuff. Give us a little bit of background on what eggplant mode is and what the eggplant represents in Overwatch.
Sure, I can't put it any simpler than just the channel description for the general text chat in the OW says eggplant equals one hero limit, no two capture point, and stopwatch.
Mm,
That's the dev. When somebody says like eggplant mode, that's what they mean. They want, and this is something that a lot of the competitive teams have asked for and wanted, and that's you can't have two McCrees on the other team. I think is
yeah.
mostly what they're complaining about.
Hmm.
Listen, and this is accurate. And to defend part of this is I heard a really good reason for why to auto ban the two capture point maps, and it wasn't to increase strategy because that's not a good reason to me until I understand it, anyways. But the reason I heard was that it creates logistical problems for the people running the tournaments. There's times you have two events in the same day. So you're trying to schedule the second one to start immediately after the first one, so that way you can kind of transfer the viewers over. And I think that's really valuable and great for the game. So anything you can do to help that work out is great. Also, reducing downtime between rounds in tournaments is a problem, because when you put up a timer that says in 9 minutes we'll be back to talk for 5 minutes and then we'll play again,
Hmm.
you're going to lose a lot of people. They're going to go get interested in something else. They're going to leave the stream, what have you, and that's bad for the tournament scene as well.
Yep.
Capture point maps, now you might think I'm crazy if you're mostly a quick play player, are incredibly offensively favored.
Hmm.
You see, and that sounds crazy, right? I'm telling you right now, it's way easier to attack on Temple of Anubis than to defend. It doesn't make sense, right? But that's only if you play in the in the quick play too much.
Yeah.
Because when teams are coordinated, you break that first point and then you just rush right to the second point.
Yep.
They're not set up yet and it's over. So you'll see like minute and a half times. Well, if odds are they're not going to capture point maps in multiple rounds or
Hmm.
multiple matches in a round. So if that's the one that's on stream, you're suddenly going to create this huge time variance, and it creates a problem. So that's a phenomenal reason to not do that. I hope it's not something that sticks around. I hope maybe we can incorporate it in, or maybe just bring it back for the finals when you don't have to worry about as much
Right.
of that. But keep it out of other spots of the tournament. I don't know. There's a lot of things we can do, and as of now, I'm fine with the stopwatch aspect of it, because I really just think it's the fairest, best way to compare a team's skill in the middle of a game.
Yeah, and it's the best way to, now that we have kind of standardized the little timer up in the top right, that the actual tournament producers put, it makes a little bit more sense from a viewer's perspective, watching the time that you need to beat and whatnot. Whereas before it was like, oh, the casters are kind of keeping track of it internally. And, if the caster forgot to tell you what time they needed to beat, then you're kind of watching the whole map being like, okay, is this where they're going to end it? Did they get this? The caster's like kind of sure. And then like in the middle of a fight, they just start typing GG and then they stop playing. It's like, okay, well, that was really stupid to watch. But now with the timer, you can kind of at least get an idea of what's going on and why they're going to be typing GG in the middle of the match. They're still going to be doing that, but you at least now understand why that's happening.
Once it's explained and it should be very easy to understand, and it should be very easy to see why it's the fairest way to do things. But I, for one, am itching to see what Blizzard's going to do with their competitive mode, because I think when they release it, they're really going to hope the tournament scene adapts to it and picks it up. And if they don't, and they still continue to run stopwatch, I'll be very curious to see if and when Blizzard caves and puts in stopwatch integration straight into the game, so that way it's so much easier to see.
Yeah,
Understand.
it's interesting because they've said for a while that they're not against stopwatch, but they're not really the biggest fans of stopwatch. And we've talked about the reasons for that ad nauseum on the show for the last few weeks. And, at the end of the day, like you mentioned, when Blizzard holds their, $1 million world championships at BlizzCon, which we're assuming are going to happen, it hasn't been announced or anything yet. Until now, we have the
2
official
million.
announcement right here. No, but it's kind of like what happened with Hearthstone, or I'm imagining it's going to be like what happened with Hearthstone for a while. And I remember talking about this on Unleash the podcast. It was like, well, do we want Conquer mode or whatever it's called, or do we want Last Deck Standing mode? And we were like, well, here's the pros of this, here's the cons of this. There wasn't really a huge consensus. And for what it's worth, there wasn't too huge of a difference. There was definitely a difference between the two modes, but I don't think anyone had any particular grievances with one over the other. I think it was
Right.
almost
People
more
were
of a
going to
preference.
adapt to whichever one got taken. It wasn't a
Right.
huge deal, but there
Right.
were, there
And
was
then
personal
Blizzard
preference.
was like, okay, this is what it is for Blizzard tournaments. The road to BlizzCon, if you want to hold qualifiers or whatnot, or tournaments that count towards whatever stupid points they were doing that season, you have to run them in this format. So if Blizzard decides to do that with Overwatch, I have to imagine that since the Gosu tournaments, the One Nation of Gamers tournaments, the King of the Watch, although King of the Watch might not count towards whatever they do if they do something like that, but any of those tournaments, they're probably going to want to be Blizzard point sanctioned or whatever they choose to do. And if they are, they're going to have to follow their Blizzard rules, which, like you mentioned to me before the show, probably not going to include hero limits.
Yeah, Blizzard kind of has the same attitude like you just talked about with stopwatch mode. They're not like, no, it's not possible, it'll ruin the game, but they're just like, it's not what we envisioned. We want this to be about hero switching and counters and really deep with synergy. So if you think 2 Winstons is the way to counter what the other team is doing, we want you to do it. It's not like you're going to win if they go to 2 Reapers. So what does it matter? Why is it bad? And that's been their attitude, and I tended to agree with them. And I really think once we see that, like we've said, once the big championship gets announced and once the competitive mode comes out, that'll take shape a lot, and hopefully we can get some clarity and some final decision making on the tournament format.
And we've seen it enough times in Magic where it usually happens right when a Pro Tour happens, or maybe before a Pro Tour. There will be a format, new cards, new set comes out. Someone comes up with a deck, usually at like a lower level SCG tournament, and everyone for 2 weeks is like, oh, this deck's broken, they should change this card's broken, blah 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 blah. Pro Tour happens, one of the pros figures out a deck that beats everything. It's insane. Everyone's like, oh, that deck's broken, well, they should ban the blah 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 blah. And then weeks later, that deck gets overturned, and then something else is better. Although, for what it's worth, usually after that like third progression, that deck actually is broken and the format gets stale. But by that time, a new set usually comes out.
And in this case, it will be a new hero, or there'll be a balance change.
Right, and it's easy enough for them
like
to do that because they don't have to revoke printed cards or whatever.
Right.
But my point is that I think the community, competitive community and casual community, have kind of jumped the gun a little bit on this one. About the hero limits. I think people are like, oh, double McCree's broken, double Winston's broken, let's just not do it. Well, have you tried just beating those things? Double Winston's definitely beatable.
Not broken.
And
double McCree, okay.
Double McCree's broken, and they've said that they're looking to change him. And I think I think when we see competitive mode come out, we'll see McCree change as well. And they also mentioned Diva too.
We have a little bit of a timeline on that. Though Diva won't be with the first balance change, with the first patch. That'll be only McCree with competitive mode. And they've said specifically that they're not touching flashbang, they're not touching left click, they're only reducing the damage on Fan the Hammer. Their problem with him right now is that he shreds tanks, and they want the tank to not necessarily be favored in the fight, but have some opportunity to live for 2 seconds and do something.
Right, and I think that philosophy is
totally
correct.
Fair.
Yeah, totally fair. So, I think the more I think about it, the more I'm like, hero limits are stupid, and just figure it out is my gut reaction to people who are like, oh well, it's broken. It's like, nope, just figure out what you need to do to beat that.
Yeah, and I think it's telling too that the best team in the game right now is Cloud9, and they are against hero limits, and also they at the same exact time feel that, and this is from a conversation they had with ZP, I think, and
Mm-hmm.
this is something he said during the tournaments, was that they felt that the switch to hero limit, while they ran a lot of double Winston, things like that, helped them because
Mm-hmm.
they felt other teams were too reliant on double McCree. And when you take that away from them, then they're forced into situations they're even more uncomfortable with
Mm-hmm.
than Cloud9 is being uncomfortable without two Winstons or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need to do that. They just did it better than everybody else, and nobody else had figured out how to beat them with the way they play it. So they kept doing it, and they're obviously haven't lost in, you know what I mean, however long
Mm-hmm.
since the rule changes. So until they do, I have to kind of just take what they say at face value, that it does help them more than it hurts them.
Yeah, and you mentioned a little bit before the show as well that it's not providing any sort of diversity whatsoever to the builds. You were mentioning on one of them, I think you said Hollywood defense is just completely solved at this point. It's always the same defense, or was that what you're talking about? Hollywood defense, or maybe it was Hollywood
Yeah,
offense?
you do see some heroes more often with hero limit than you would have otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
There's more Zarya now because you can't run the double Winston. For example, there's way more Junkrat and Pharah, but it's still, everything's very cookie cutter. Like Hollywood defense is going to be Junkrat, McCree, Widowmaker with a Reinhardt, and then your two supports every time. There's no teams right now running anything different.
Mm-hmm.
King of the Hill is just as solved as it was before. It's just not 2-2-2. It's, I don't even know how many rounds I saw this weekend of Zarya, Winston, Reaper, McCree, Lucio, Mercy on both sides.
Yeah.
That's not diversity. I understand. Listen, I like watching Junkrat play probably more than I like watching Pharah play, but I do like them both.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice to see those guys come in, but we're not fixing the problem that would just is going to be fixed by the McCree nerf anyways. I don't know. It's those guys were going to come back in when double McCree stopped being so valuable, no matter what you did. I felt
Right.
like, and so yeah.
And I mean, if you think about back to the old days when we first started the show, the Fantastic Four, Farah, Mercy, Reinhardt, Lucio, there technically weren't hero limits back then, but people played as though they were.
Mm-hmm.
No one really experimented outside of the box in any sort of discernible way. It was basically those four. And then you usually see a McCree and maybe like a 76 or something. I don't even remember what the actual comps were, but those days, those were not diverse days. Those were very stagnant, very similar comps all the time.
Yeah.
The only time that I would think that it got really stale, and I wouldn't even say it was that stale, but it got as bad as it's been with double hero is the old Zenji.
The orb. Yeah, double orb.
Double orb comp was pretty dominant, I'll say, for a while. And then they changed it, and then it fixed itself, right?
Right.
I don't think anything has been even close to that. And I think a lot of people just haven't played there, and they hear one person say, this is kind of how the whole community's been. They hear one person say something, and they're like, oh, yeah, that's right.
That sounds right to me, so it can't possibly be wrong.
Right.
And listen, I have a strong opinion on this, but when you have the conversation with other people, this is what's frustrated me the most, is don't act like you figured it out.
Right.
You don't know. I could very well be wrong, and I allow for that possibility, and
Yeah.
I'll listen to
Hey.
different reasons and things like that for why people like it. And I was very open. Like, I hate that they don't do the 2 CP maps, but ZP offered an explanation that I really liked. And he didn't, he specifically said that they did it mostly because the players asked for it. But they also had these other reasons, and I was very open to that one. And now I don't care that much if they bring 2 CP back into it. It's not the most fun for me to watch personally, but I do think it creates an extra level. It says, hey, I can't beat C9 under normal circumstances, so let's take them to a circumstance that's not that normal for them.
And they almost lost a map.
Right. And when they did that to themselves because they thought they had it in the bag, they almost cost themselves a map against B-Fly.
This is okay. Let's put an end to this. This is what should happen. You should be fighting for no hero limits. Jeff Kaplan, even though he's against it, will be fighting for Hero Limits 1v1 Kings Row best of 5 to end it all.
I'm very happy that you're confident enough in my play that you put me on the Hero Limit side of things. I would rather say if he wins, then Hero Limits are gone forever, because then
And
I
then
can
you
just
throw the match.
Yeah, then I can just throw.
It's not
it,
fun.
So.
That's not fun.
But I've played against Kaplan enough to know that it's not a win, man. I don't know that I just take him. He's good. I just think he was solo queuing
You gotta fight for it, man.
I would be down for it, but then I would just have to quit the game if I lost, right?
Well, Jeff Kaplan, you heard it here. The challenge is back on. You've played him before for months.
Just Kings Row. It's got to be Kings Row. That's our stipulation.
And for those of you who are playing the High Noon Podcast drinking game, yes, you have to drink because we mentioned the Jeff Kaplan thing. We are getting to the point where there probably could be a drinking game associated with the show.
Probably.
There's enough stupid jokes, inside jokes.
And it's hard to know when you're talking how bad your ums and ers and ahs are, but you could also
bad.
Probably do a drinking game on that still.
Hopefully
we're getting better.
You'd be drunk before the show even started. And I sounded kind of like an idiot there because I was trying very hard not to say Also, if you are playing that, alcohol poisoning. But let's move on. I think we're kind of pushing the time right now. I don't even know. It's been a while. This has been a longer one. But we went over a lot of good stuff. Went on a couple of good tangents. But I think we're gonna start wrapping it up. So Deathblow, where can we find you, buddy?
You can find me mostly on Twitter at D3ATHBL0W. I'm on Twitch as well, throw an underscore in there, but I don't stream a whole lot or really at all lately. Hopefully I will pick that up again soon, but it's been a little tough with practice and everything going on. That's the main hours I like to stream, and at the same time, it's not necessarily the most entertaining thing to watch. So.
Yeah, it's tough when you're trying to play competitive and stream. That's kind of why I went towards streaming. Though I haven't really been doing much of that lately either. But you can always find me, if I do stream, you can always find me on Twitter at @the_Blevins. You can also find me streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/theblevins, no underscore. You can also find the show here live every Monday at 7 p.m.-ish Eastern. That's when we're at least going to try to go live. Even if the show doesn't start, we'll talk and stuff. You can also find the show on Twitter at HighNoon Podcast. We will tweet back at you and such. If you have any questions or anything, tweet at us there. You can also email us, highnoonpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find the show, as always, on iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or any of the other podcast scraping third-party sites where we're on there. The RSS feed is up there, so it will scrape appropriately. All of those are...
If you can't find it somewhere you would like to listen to it, let us know. We'll do our best to get it there.
Exactly. All of those, if you search for High Noon Podcast, it will be there. The link is also on the Twitter page. All the links are there. I usually will pin the most recent episode and the links to everything on the Twitter page. And if you search for High Noon Podcast, or do like youtube.com/ although youtube.com isn't High Noon Podcast yet, but everything else I think is. You can also find us on creationesports.com. We are there as their podcast section on the page. Also, you can't find us there, but a huge shout out to Matt Chirino, one of our other partners for the show. Also, huge thanks to Adam Hoek, who made our outro, our sweet McCree outro, which you'll be hearing in just a minute. I think that's everything. Deathblow, do you have anything else before we get going?
I don't think so. That should be it. Keep an eye out. Hopefully on Sunday, my team might be in the Gosu Gamers weekly event. So I think we'll be playing under the name Finesse Esports. So keep an eye out, and if you see that, you'll know that's me.
Yeah, so root for the home team there. Keep an eye out. We're going to be, we're at least going to be talking and maybe getting some details out about a Patreon coming up. So if you have, again, really going to appreciate any sort of comments or feedback or anything that you'd like to see on a Patreon there from us. Please, 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 please let us know. Also, please keep up all the crazy fan stuff, even if it's cupcake based.
You can hold off
Keep
on the anime and Tom Brady if you want.
keep all that stuff up. As much as I say I hate it, I actually love it. I don't actually love the cupcakes, but I love the fact that you guys are sending them to me and trying to make me upset. And the last thing I'd like to shout out is the Spec. Shout outs to the Spec on my camera. Sorry, listeners on iTunes, you can't see it, but if you go to the Twitch page, you can see it. But man, the absolute last thing, I'm sorry, winded. Last thing, please, guys, do me one thing. Remember, it's HighNoon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. He threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
All right, folks.